Good evening. On behalf of the Watertown branch of the American Association of University Women and the Watertown Chamber of Commerce, welcome to Candidate Conversations. I am Joan Schwagel and I'll be your moderator this evening. The taping of each 15-minute conversation will be available on Watertown TV and cable TV, and will also be offered to other local access TV stations where appropriate. It will also be available on your computer or your cell phone at www.watertowntv.com. DVDs will be placed at the Watertown Library and the Watertown Chamber of Commerce. So without further ado, I think we'll just start by having a general introduction. And why don't we start with David? Why don't you give a little introduction about yourself? Just tell us about yourself.
Well, I was born and raised in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. I am a second-generation American. I graduated from Goodrich High School in Fond du Lac. I went on to UW River Falls, where I graduated. I also subsequently attended graduate school at UW Milwaukee. I am an international traveler. I've been to 6 of the 7 continents. I've been to all 50 states in the nation. I worked for 30 years for the Wisconsin Department of Corrections as a senior probation parole agent. I worked in our drug unit, our pre-sentence unit, and in our absconder unit, where I was the senior agent. I've been to over 30 different states bringing felon fugitives back to Wisconsin. After I retired, and I'm one of those men that will never be able to retire, I will always be either working or volunteering in some type of a project. I drove a truck for several years. Then I got into grassroots politics in Milwaukee County, and I ran as a candidate for the Milwaukee County Election Commission, and I won the nomination by 1 vote, and a gentleman by the name of Mr. Scott Walker was our county executive, and he appointed me to the Election Commission. He was statutorily required to appoint 2 Democrats and 1 Republican. The 2 other parties were already incumbents. The biggest project we had was during the Prosser-Kloppenberg recount. And we did extremely well. We were very proud of how the commission reacted. Great. And then I became interested in running for the position of treasurer.
Okay, can we hold that so we give Matt a chance? Okay, yes. Thank you. Well, tell us about yourself.
Yeah. My name is Matt Adamczyk. I'm born and raised in the Milwaukee area. I live in Wauwatosa right now. I own rental properties in the city of Milwaukee and the surrounding communities, and I also help manage a family heating and cooling business. Our business has been around for over 30 years, and I spent nearly the last, let's say, decade working up at the Capitol for some legislators, both state representative and state senator. And I decided to run for this office, the state treasurer's position, out of a passion for wanting to try to find and eliminate government waste, and I truthfully don't have to look much further than the state treasurer's office, so I'm running for this office.
Okay, thank you. Some general rules that were given to the candidates ahead of time is be respectful of each other's opinions and answers. Keep your responses to as concise as possible so that each of you can get equal time to speak. If you tend to go over 2 minutes for any one answer, you're notified to wrap up quickly. Just remember this conversation time is only 15 minutes. So feel free to respond to what your opponent has said. This is, after all, a conversation. And you can disagree on issues, but leave personal attacks for another time and place. Note, you're welcome to agree with your opponent. Okay, some questions for State Treasurer, because I don't think the voting public knows or is aware what the office of the State Treasurer actually does for the state of Wisconsin. What does the State Treasurer actually do? Why don't you start?
The State Treasurer is the Chief Fiscal Trustee of the state of Wisconsin. This office has served the people of the state of Wisconsin well for over 165 years. It is an integral part of our self-representative democracy. It is an agency that generates, until very, very recently, tremendous amounts of money into our common school fund. And I refer everyone to Article 10, Section 7 of the Wisconsin State Constitution. Our Scandinavian and German ancestors had a great fear of a concentration of power in the executive branch of government. That is the reason why we elect our Secretary of State, our Treasurer, our Department of Public Instruction, our Attorney General. They came from Central Europe, and they had a great fear of too much power in the executive branch of government. This is, and we can see that happening right now. The State Treasurer's Office has, in the last 10 years, as part of the Board of Commissioners of Public Lands, has generated almost $500 million to the educational funds identified in Article 10, Section 7 of the state constitution. I wish to be Wisconsin's 34th elected state treasurer.
Thank you. Matt, sorry.
I think one of the reasons that people don't know what the state treasurer does, and frankly who the state treasurer is because the state treasurer is more or less a do-nothing position. It has become a figurehead position, and realistically, one of us is going to win this election come November. One of the real only duties we would do is sign our name on a piece of paper somewhere that would be printed on the checks that the state does send out. Besides serving on the one other board, which the current treasurer says about 2 15-minute phone calls a month, the treasurer doesn't do really anything. It's an absolutely useless, needless position. Costs the taxpayers about $1 million every 2 years. And my opponent mentioned about consolidating power. Well, the treasurer doesn't have any power. The state treasurer currently is one guy and 3 staff. Okay, 4 people total. Costs the taxpayer is about $1 million. And we don't really get anything for it, which is why there's a huge push to eliminate the whole office. I support it, and it's got broad bipartisan support. Both Governor Walker and Mayor Barrett both support eliminating the office. And when we had a vote in the Wisconsin State Legislature, the vast majority of people supported eliminating it. And there's even the newspapers in the state, for example, the State Journal has come out strongly saying, let's get rid of it. Their actual editorial headline was, let's get rid of this do-nothing office. And I couldn't agree more.
Okay, thank you. Do you have anything more to add to it?
I would like to respond to
Yes.
that. My response is, I agree with Mr. Adamczyk. The functions of the Treasury have been transferred out to other agencies of state government. For years, the Department of Administration and the Department of Revenue have lusted to take over the wealth that this office has generated for over 165 years. The unclaimed property is an absolute disaster at the present time, being handled by the Department of Revenue. The employees there are under a written gag order not to talk about their jobs. I worked in Wisconsin government for 30 years. When somebody issues a gag order, it means somebody's trying to hide something. And I smell something. Right now, and we think it's an accounting error, there's $20 million missing from the dividend and stock section of unclaimed property. And this has been brought up by Well, it's been brought out by Wisconsin Politics, which is a internet newspaper. I also want to say, previously, the Treasurer's Office handled the unclaimed property. They handled it for almost 4 decades. We received national awards from the National Association of State Treasurers for how well of a job we've done, and we generated all kinds of money. The Treasurer's Office is not supported by taxpayers' money. It's supported by program revenue that the agency earned, and any surplus is turned over into the common school fund.
Okay.
I guess I just interject real
You
quick.
could, yeah, let's just go back and forth a little bit. You'll get that.
For those in the audience that don't know, this is when people have maybe a closed bank account. So let's say I had $25 in there, and most people have a small amount of money. Okay, most people have money on unclaimed property. It's usually from a bank account that was closed. The program was moved from the State Treasurer's Office to the Department of Revenue, and this was done a couple years ago. Why was this done? For efficiency. And I'll just give you a very quick example. The Department of Revenue handles every year about 3 million people's tax files. They get all those refunds handled, all those returns handled. It's not by any means that for that size of an agency, it's not very difficult for them to handle this one small program. And what they're going to be able to do is speed it up with efficiency. This last legislative session, a bill was passed that every single member of the legislature, all Republicans, all Democrats voted for it. And I know one of the gentlemen that represents Jefferson, Representative Jorgensen, who's a Democrat, he recently praised how great the bill was because next year they're going to be able to automatically link up people's money. So let's say somebody has, that again, $25. Right now, the only way they can get their unclaimed property is if they go through the difficult process of filing the paperwork, making copies of their ID, finding possibly a social security number, all that information. Right now, what's going to happen is the social security numbers are going to link up and the Department of Revenue is going to automatically give you your money back. And that's why Democrats and Republicans, all members supported it. And that's a great thing, and that's a way that the legislature worked, together to get something accomplished that's going to help the state of Wisconsin.
Okay, you want to add to that?
In response to that, I'd like to correct Mr. Adamczyk. Mayor Barrett does not support the elimination of the Wisconsin State Treasury, and he actually has endorsed me. I also want to add that where do you get accountability? Where do you get transparency? When you do not have an elected official at the helm. President Truman had a sign on his desk. It read, "The buck stops here." That's the type of department head I want to be. I want to be accountable. I want to be transparent. I will not be issuing any gag orders to my staff.
Okay, I got to sit you down, okay?
You have another,
Yes, I do. Can move on here very quickly. There's been bitterness and mean-spirited partisanship in the state of Wisconsin as well as Washington, D.C. If you are elected to the office of state treasurer, and why don't we let David start this time, what is one thing you can personally do to help the rift, heal the rift between the parties?
Well, thank you for the question. I guess I would say this is a perfect example. Like I said, last legislative session, all members of the legislature supported this. That's because the people in the know in Madison that are people that are voting realize that this is common sense, okay? It's common sense to get rid of our office. It's only 4 people, the treasurer and 3 staff. Those 4 people cost us $1 million every 2 years, and they don't do anything. They probably sit in their office and probably play on their phones. They don't have any duties to do. And that's just the way the office has been arranged right now. And, my opponents talked about, I know Mayor Barrett in the past has supported. When he ran for the governor, that was one of his platforms. So maybe he's changed his position, but obviously he's a Democrat and you're running, and so I'm assuming he'd vote for you, but he has supported in the past getting rid of the office, as has other members of the legislature. That's because this treasurer's office is it literally doesn't have anything to do. Everything, if David or I win, we are going to inherit an office that has no duties, no responsibilities. That's what the office does. The only way the office would change is if the elected members of the legislature give the office duties and the governor signs off on it. And the legislature has no intentions in doing that. So we are going to, either one of us will win an office that does nothing. So I say it's very simple. Let's get rid of the office. It costs $1 million, let's get rid of it.
and I couldn't disagree more. There are significant functions in the Wisconsin State Treasury's office, even as it stands now. The treasurer is one of the 3 members of the Board of Commissioners of Public Lands. We own tremendous numbers of timber and mineral rights in the northern part of the state. In March of this year, $30.2 million was issued by the commission to the Director of Public Instructions to support public K through 12 school libraries. Enough money to provide 2.2 textbooks for every public school student in the state of Wisconsin.
Okay, thank you. I think we have I think we're out of time. We have to get down to the end. Why should the voters vote for you? And Matt, could we start with you?
Well, I come across in this election on a common sense platform. When you're looking at an office that costs the taxpayers $1 million and it doesn't do anything, it's a very simple position. You get rid of it. And that's why people like the State Journal, the Journal Sentinel, have all come out saying, let's get rid of this office. That's why you have Republicans, you have Democrats saying this office is no longer needed. The only people that say to keep it typically are people running for the office, the people in the office themselves, like the current treasurer now. And that's just because it's, they say we want to keep this so that we have a check and balance. Well, the office doesn't do anything. So if it doesn't do anything, what can you be checking? What are you checking on? There's no authority there whatsoever. So I say it's very simple. Let's save the taxpayer money. That money that Mr. Sartori talked about, the office costs the $1 million. If we get rid of it, that money flows back to the Common School Fund, which therefore benefits all the public schools in the state of Wisconsin, as well as all the local taxpayers, because it's $1 million less that they have to fund for the local school libraries. So I ask for people's vote.
My response to that is you would have to amend the Wisconsin State Constitution in order to do that. And this is a very lengthy process that will take several years. Yes, there's very few functions right now in the treasurer's office. That's why I want the unclaimed property back. I want our 4-member staff out of the dungeon-like subterranean office that they have underneath the rotunda of the Capitol. I want to put them in a professional business office. I want the unclaimed property mission back. I want the municipal investment pool back. I want the 529 AdVest program back. And I have a statement here that was issued the day after the primary. It's our current elected state treasurer. He said he ran on a platform of abolishing the state treasurer's office. And he said he realized after he spent several years in the position that it is critical that we maintain the treasurer's office as a constitutional, accountable, transparent agency. You aren't going to get transparency or accountability from the Department of Administration or the Department of Revenue.
Can I just interject one thing? You might have printed it, or it was put in one paper. He put that out a couple days before. He was supporting my primary opponent. He was one of his main sponsors, and that's why he put it out, to try to help my primary opponent. But
my response to that is the statement I have is dated the 13th of August.
It's the same article. It came in the State Journal. They published it a few days later. But
okay.
All right. Just thank you very much. This is interesting because there's definite differences between the candidates. Don't forget to vote on November 4th.
Thank you.
Thank you.